This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to the Milo Beasley Show, episode number 292. I'm super excited for our guest this week. Chatted with him a couple times at the GalaxyCon events in the past, hopefully in the future. So with no further ado, please help me welcome my guest at this time, Guy Gilchrist. How are you doing, man?
Oh, it's great to see you, Milo. I'm doing great. I'm in Nashville. Well, I'm actually here at, Giant Frog Central, and we're getting thawed out today. So,
because it's been a winter to remember, I suppose,
and
for you guys. I couldn't imagine
hanging on the frog and his banjo. That's.
I'm in Florida. I know nothing about that. What you guys are going through, so
much.
So I wanted to chat with you. Super excited. Let's start from the beginning. So, like, what got you motivated to get into drawing, into art, into that type of stuff? Were you into it as a kid? Did you go to school for it?
Okay, I did not go to school for it. I always say I didn't go to school. I went to work. My innkeeper is here. I've fed him, so it should be all right. My dog is always my guest and my boss in the studio. My mom was a good artist, and she used to take me to work with her. And she worked as a waitress at a diner, and she worked the front desk at a hotel and things. And so she wouldn't get fired, and to keep me busy, she would open up the newspaper, and the newspaper had the funnies, the comic section. And she would say, give me a pencil and a bunch of paper and say, here, Guy, draw this. And, it wouldn't be just draw, Mickey Mouse or Pogo or Bill Bailey or whatever. It was like, here, draw this. And there were 30 different comics. It was a way to keep me occupied, and it worked. And so art became my friend, and also I found that when I drew pictures and gave them to people, it became a gift. I was doing something. I made something out of nothing. I had no money, but I could make you happy by giving you something that I made. And that joy was really a huge thing with me. And it became a big factor in me saying, gee, I want to do this.
That's amazing. That's a great feeling. And that's a great way to get started in something, is to be able to bring joy to other people.
Well, when you're little too, and you're growing up, you always feel like sort of left out, and you might feel different in a bad way, and you'd like to feel different in a good way, and feel special in a good way. And this was something, drawing and telling stories and stuff was something that I found out that I could get good attention for, and it was so, and it kind of, I was poor. I didn't know it. Didn't have anything, but I could make my own worlds up, and back in those days, the early 60s, of course there were no computers, I think. So comic books and stuff, we would look at comic book. All my friends, we all loved to try to draw, and it just turned out that I was the best of it, I at it. And I was sort of the best at it of our group, but we all tried. It was just something that we did.
That's that's great. How did you get involved with Jim Henson and the Muppets? Was it did they recruit you? Did you send in an application, a phone call to Jim Henson Productions? How did you get involved with him?
Well, I was doing a comic book for Weekly Reader, and Weekly Reader was a book program, and they had a newspaper and magazines, stuff like that, that went to schools. And I was doing a comic book for them. And I met Mort Walker, the creator of Beetle Bailey and High and Lois, and he had founded a museum of cartoon art, the very first one in the United States. This was in the late 70s. And Mort had poured a whole bunch of his own money into saying, this is a great American art form, cartoons, And so I had done several chalk talks down there, teaching kids how to draw and that kind of thing. And the comic that I was doing was like a funny animal comic. And Mort remembered that. And one day he was playing golf with Bill Yates, the chief editor-in-chief at King Features. And Bill was lamenting the fact that they had a development deal with Jim Henson for a Muppet Show comic strip for 2 years. They had tried out 200 different people, and Jim hadn't chosen any one of them. They were about to lose the deal.
Oh.
And Mort said, well, there's this hippie kid. Call him. He draws funny animals. It's a pig and a frog, right? And so Bill called me. I auditioned. I didn't know what I was doing, but I auditioned, and I lived in Connecticut, and I could take the train to New York City. And I did, and I brought him some stuff, and he liked it pretty good. Well, it's way too late for me to make this long story short, but I eventually met Michael Frith and went over to Henson Associates at 117 East 69th in Manhattan. And they were very nice, but non-committal. For 1 full year, I just kept writing and drawing more samples and mailing them in. And one day the phone rang, and it was Jerry Jewell, Jim's head writer, telling me that I had the job. And
That's
going to be Jim's very first cartoonist.
That is incredible. That is, and then how long after that until you actually got to meet Jim Henson?
Oh, it was about a month later, because they had taken so long, and then of course King Features was very anxious to get it out.
Right.
There was so much money on the table. It was going to become, and it did become, the most popular comic that was ever launched in the history of comic strips. That went everywhere, all around the world, 660 papers on the very first day. They knew this was going to be big.
Right.
So everyone was pushing very hard. Jim, when he hired me, was over in London, and he was filming Great Muppet Caper, just to give you an idea, and Dark Crystal, right? It was I just kind of give you, Dark Crystal was like starting, right. and just so it gives you a time frame in Muppet world. And then Jim took the Concorde over, and we met on a Saturday morning, and my world changed.
I can imagine. Were you super nervous? Like, I mean, I guess you had the gig for a month, but I mean,
when Jerry Jewell called me, I had a studio in my garage in Unionville, Connecticut. And I had to pretend for an hour, speaking to Jerry Jewell, that dreams come true and miracles happen every single day, and pretend I was an adult. And then I began. But knowing that I was going to meet Jim at some point, the Henson people were amazing. They put me up at the Waldorf Astoria. So I felt like I was a thief or something. Like I felt like I was in somebody else's life, like not in my life. I'm like in the Waldorf Astoria. They have gold cups and and anyway, and I was going over to the office, which was Henson Associates, every single day, and immersing myself and taking art lessons from Michael K. Frith. But all that whole time thinking at 11 o'clock on Saturday, I'm meeting Jim. And so that morning, of course, I didn't sleep the whole night before. And so at 6 o'clock or so in the morning, I couldn't take anymore. Went and had breakfast, and then went over to Henson. and knocked on the door, and the guy that was always there, that was sort of the caretaker, let me in. And I sat in the conference room from about 7 o'clock in the morning on, and I don't know, it was around 9:30 in the morning. The door swings open a little bit in the conference room, and Jim peeks in. Had a knapsack, we used to call backpacks knapsack.
Right.
Had a knapsack on his back, and like these green sneakers. Like, oh, you must be Guy. You're early. We'll see you later. And he bopped up the stairs. And I'm just like, and my brother was working with me. And I look at my brother and I'm like, and that was Jim. And, yeah.
Were you, so after that experience, so when you actually did get to meet him, did that early in the day experience, did that help ease your tension a little bit?
Oh, I was in a weird place because I already knew I had this incredible responsibility.
Right. Absolutely.
So my nervousness was also, I was fortified knowing that I had this road in front of me and this was what I was going to be doing. And I was very, and I had just turned 24. I was still 23, probably still 23. I don't know. And so I'm like, my frames of reference are pretty lame. But I'm trying to let Jim know that he did not make the wrong choice. And I'm trying. And Jim was so sweet and so humble and also a man of very few words. And he knew what he wanted. And he was the greatest boss in that he would give you the job and then not tell you how to do it. So you would jump through any hoop and do anything to please him. And it worked out great because instead of me thinking about the 600 million people that were going to look at every line and every word that I was doing, I was concentrating on making Jim happy. And by me going about things that way, I made a lot of people happy because I made Jim happy, So that was kind of it. Jim had this amazing ability to raise up the talents of everyone around him. You didn't want to let him down. Right. And he was so brilliant and so, far ahead in every way that, and funny and humble and quiet and everything. And that you were so happy to be there, to be a part of this thing, that you knew that you were a part of all of this silliness and all of this joy, and you'd do anything to keep on having your place there. And Milo, it's so great that it was like that, and Jim was like that, because, in retrospect, you think, gosh, 80 countries, millions and millions of people didn't know what I was doing. Probably getting written up with bad reviews and all of this other stuff. Being a kid, being, thrown into television and the spotlight, People magazine and all that stuff. And not knowing any of that, that any of this was coming. I think that the pressure would have been overwhelming had Jim not been that spiritual father figure, fun person to be with,
Absolutely. I want to jump ahead a couple years to those guys behind you, the Muppet Babies. The Muppet Babies were a huge part of my childhood. I loved them. How much fun was it to be able to work on that project and be able to do, merchandising and that for the Muppet Babies?
Yeah, it was mind blowing. At first, when I got this phone call from Michael. Now, see, I didn't work.
Right.
Henson Associates. I was home in Connecticut,
Oh,
right?
right.
So they were working on Muppet Babies, but I didn't know anything about it. It was in its embryonic state, but I didn't know anything about it. Jim Mahan and Isabel Miller had been working on baby versions of the characters and figuring some stuff out. I didn't know anything about it. Michael called me and said, it was like on a Monday night or a Tuesday morning or something. And he said, I would like for you to draw me all of the Muppets, your version of them as babies. And I would like to have it like Thursday. I'd like to show it. Jim's going to be on Thursday. So I'd like to show it to Jim on Thursday. And so it basically gave like a day and a half. And he said, draw everything, but concentrate on the big four, and I always made that the big five because I wanted Rolf the dog and everything. So I was doing that. I brought it to Michael, and then sort of all hell broke loose. Like, it was amazing. Like, it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And Jeffrey Scott, who wrote the show and everything. I mean, it was the coolest thing to be a part of, and to know that the look of the characters and everything, I had something to do with all of that. And the style of the art and everything came from my cartoon version, of the Muppets, and that's why, like, even if you look at the pictures behind me, the grown up animal of mine doesn't look too far away from the baby animal, so being a part of all of that was just a tremendous opportunity. But I'll tell you, when Michael first called me, I was like this, because I was already, writing and drawing the comic every day, and we had merchandise, Muppet, show merchandise, and I was already doing Fraggle Rock merchandise. And then it's like, oh, so what do the Muppets look like as babies? And I'm going like, I don't know if I want to know. I sometimes joke around, but it's kind of true. I say, so I got the call, in 1980, I got the call from Jerry Jewell to start. And then around 1992, I finally took a nap. It's all this blur. There was so much going on, and we were doing so much. And of course, I had a wonderful team, around me. But when I look back just at the pile of art that we did, and all of the things that we did, and and at the same time doing that with the babies and everything, as soon as I got a handle on how much I could handle that per day, things would show up like, oh, draw Tom and Jerry now. You want to do that? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to do that. I have time to do that, but yeah, I really want to do that. Would you be the Looney Tunes guy? Well, yeah, I'd like to do that. So yeah, it's a good thing I draw fast, right, Milo?
Absolutely. I mean, that's just, I'm feeling nervous for you just thinking about that. Have you seen the new, I mean, you can say no comment if you want, but have you seen the new Muppet Babies?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the new Muppet Babies?
Well, it's not our babies, because
right.
it's the same audience, but it wins a lot of Emmys and stuff for for the little baby child,
right.
that the audience that it's for, the preschoolers that it's for, it does very well. And I don't know if you saw it, and if you haven't, I think you can look it up and just like type in Baby Manning, like Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that video?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you're gonna cry when
right.
Well, I cried.
Okay.
There's a 10-month-old boy who was born deaf, and so they put the hearing aid implants into his head. Right? They had an operation. He had never heard music before. And I just saw this on ABC News the other night. And the first thing that they played, the parents put on, was the Muppet Babies Show. And this little 10-month-old boy is smiling and dancing, and it's the first music he's ever heard. And so he liked it.
Yeah, I would say so.
You know, there's one of the guys that does some of the voices on the show. Every once in a while, writes to me through Twitter, and he calls me Dad. Like, hey, Dad, if you have a chance, watch, because they'll put a little Easter egg, you know, with something that I did in it, you know, something, you know, so they're wonderful and very cute.
That's great. And hopefully, I mean, I have the Disney Plus. Do you have the Disney Plus? Yeah. Hopefully, maybe we'll get to see some original Muppet Babies on there one day. Would absolutely love to see that. I mean,
you know, the whole thing with the copyright issues and the songs and all of that.
Right.
It would be wonderful if it ever showed up. But, you know, well, we do have the Muppet Show. Now they finally put out, you know, the 120 of those, the 5 years of those on Disney Plus.
And speaking of Disney Plus, what are your thoughts, and what do you think Jim's thoughts would be on the banners and the warning banners in front of
the disclaimer thing?
Yes.
I think Jim is smiling. Number one, he's smiling, and only he knows all the reasons why. Because I could never speak for him. But I think that, for one thing, I think that Jim is thrilled that the show is back on, and that children are going to fall in love with it all over again. You know, we've been asking a lot of the generations over the past years to fall in love with the Muppets, because you only have the Muppet movies, you know, and those movies are long, and, you know, children have very short attention spans. But now that the actual show is back on, I think it's going to be the #1 show on Disney Plus. And I think that children are going to go bonkers. I think that Rolf is going to have a brand new fan club because he's so big on their Scooter. You know, there's going to be all sorts of characters that have been sort of lost in the wind over all of this time. As far as, you know, the thing about, there might be something, you know, that might be objectionable or something like that. All of us know, and I think that even Disney putting the disclaimer, everyone knows that there was no one that was more inclusive and more thoughtful of all of us and loving each other and taking care of each other than Jim was. And that's what the Muppet universe is all about. But, you know, I think about it, you know, I'm 64, and the last episode ran when I was 24. And, you know, and there's been a lot of changes in our world, you know, in 40 years.
Right.
And, you know, so if there's a geisha Muppet and someone would be upset about, you know, it's like, it's okay, you know, put it there and say, hey, there's some fun stuff coming up that, you know, you may not even understand. So here you go. But, you know, Jim loved to poke fun at any sort of authority. You know, that's what Sam the Eagle and many other characters are all about. So I think just the fact that there's a disclaimer before giant monsters blow up sets. Well, you know, okay. Warning, pig and frog in love. Frog not so into it.
No. And I've always loved that dynamic.
You know, I think that I you know, I'm not going to be offended, you know, if you don't want to, you know, if you'd rather hang with chickens rather than penguins, it's cool with me.
One thing I want to talk about, because I'm a huge fan and of this style design, and that is on your Instagram page, and that is your character themed baseballs.
Oh,
are you I'm a huge baseball fan.
Who do you like?
I'm a Tampa guy, born and raised in Tampa, so I'm a Rays guy. Fantastic year last year. Hopefully we can do it again.
Get any? You are not going to get any no competition from my team. We're having a tag sale at Fenway Park. I'm a big,
Oh.
we're here we're selling out to the bare walls. But yeah, I'm a huge baseball fan. I played baseball as a kid, and that's my favorite sport. I also work with the Albert Pujols Family Foundation, and that's been just such a wonderful thing, to be able to work with Albert, who's like, the greatest living player.
Absolutely.
That's playing right now. And, and he's just one of the greatest human beings. Him and Dee Dee, his wife, are just the most amazing people. We work with autistic kids, with Down syndrome children, and with children that are starving down in the Dominican. And that's sort of where it all began, was to draw baseballs with, that were autographed by Albert or Mike Trout or whoever. And, to draw them and to draw Muppets on that and stuff like that. And people started seeing those and asking if I would do those. And so, I do those, and we have a percentage that goes to the foundation of all of those that I do. And thanks for asking about that, because that's really fun. It's a blast to do, and they're kind of hard to do.
I bet.
Because you have a black Bic pen, right? And so you draw, and if you make a mistake, you can't erase baseball. And so you draw with a black Bic pen, and then you let it dry, and then I take like colored pencils and color them in. But I really enjoy doing it because it's something sort of fun and different. And the idea that anything can be a canvas is cool.
Absolutely. Again, I absolutely love it. So and then I did want to talk about what probably has to be one of the coolest, like you said, you were 24 years old, you meet Jim Henson, and then just a couple of years later, you get to go to the White House.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you're still in your 20s. How is how does that happen?
Well, what happened was sometime in 1983, President Reagan press people reached out to Jim and to Jane Leventhal, who ran publishing there, and said, the Muppets comic strip is President Reagan's favorite comic. That we have a Easter, ceremony celebration every year on the lawn at the White House, and we would love for you to come and be our guest of honor. And so Jim said, oh, but that's Guy. Guy does that. Send Guy. He'll like that.
Wow.
And so instead of Jim going, I got a phone call from, they still called it the James Brady, press office, even though, Mr. Brady had been shot, but they still called it that. And I got a call from the Brady press office saying, hi, you're guest of honor at the Easter egg roll here for 1984. And so would you draw the cover of the program, and we'd like to put it in the Smithsonian. And you're to be here, right? And I found myself at 25 years old, sitting next to Pete Fleming from the Olympics, and Brooks Robinson from the Orioles, and and Joe Theismann and Sonny Jurgensen, and all of these amazing people that won the Super Bowl and the World Series and everything. And then there's me,
the hippie who draws.
Yeah. Yeah. It all came from being like that, Jim, if you ever get a chance on YouTube or something to watch Jim walk up and accept an award, whether it was, whatever it was that he was winning, he would always deflect and thank everyone else and say, we're a team. And that was how he was. And so it was the greatest honor of my life to represent our team. And, Nancy Reagan saying that, you're now a national treasure, and putting the work in the Smithsonian. Holy cow. How does this go down? And the other added thing that that came from that was I got to meet then Vice President Bush and Barbara, and we became lifelong friends until when he passed away. I was just heartbroken. He was a great man, great World War II hero, and just the sweetest guy, and and a really good ball player. He played for Yale, and he loved baseball. That was one of the ways that I really got through that day was in baseball with Vice President Bush.
That's, I can't even imagine. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a little thing called the Milo Beasley Show Frequently Asked Questions. These are the same 5 questions that I ask every single guest on my show. There's no right or wrong answers. You already know the answers because it's So anyway, question number 1. Who was your very first celebrity crush?
Shelley Fabre.
Okay.
She sang.
I know the name.
Well, she sang Johnny Angel, 'cause I love him, and I pray that someday he'll love me. Anyway, she was Donna Reed's daughter on the Donna Reed show.
Right.
She sang the song, and I had the picture sleeve of the 45, and I would kiss it. I loved Shelley Fabre. That was my first celebrity crush.
That's fantastic. All right, so
and my second was Ronnie of the Ronettes, who sang "Be My Baby." I was like, I saw her on the Ed Sullivan Show singing "Be My." I'm like, yeah.
All right. Question number 2.
Rock and roll chips, man.
What is your guilty pleasure song? Like, what's your go-to when you're in the shower or just cranking in the car?
Well, "Be My Baby" is a really good one. By the Ronettes, or "Good Vibrations." I love "Good Vibrations."
Good Vibrations. Beach Boys. Heck yeah.
Yeah, Beach Boys.
All right. Question number 3. If your life depended on it, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I'd go with distracting the giant duck.
I like that.
Yeah, because I figure like I just need one really big loaf of bread and throw it in the pond, and I'm out.
Never thought about that. Everyone was like, oh, well, I try to tie the bird's legs up or, and then, but yeah, a giant loaf of bread. Perfect.
See ya.
All right. Question number 4. What is your favorite movie quote?
Well, I guess it'd be "Here's to my brother George, the richest man in town."
I don't even know where that's from.
It's from "It's a Wonderful Life."
Oh, yes. Okay. I was thinking
Harry Bailey.
Yes.
And he says, yes, a toast to my brother George, the richest man in town, because that's kind of how I feel like my whole life has been.
All right, and then our last one. Finish this sentence. I would be a millionaire if I had $1 every time.
Every time I got married. Yeah, wrote an alimony check. Or somebody asked me, to draw Kermit for them. And you know what? It's okay, because I've done real well doing that, and the smile is worth all of it anyway.
Absolutely. All right, and then this brings us to the Milo Beasley Show top 5, where I'm going to ask you a random question. This one's always super random. Sometimes I never know what it's going to be until like I'm literally asking it. But this one is going to be, I think, a little bit fun. Top 5 childhood cartoons.
Ooh, okay. Mighty Mouse, Woody Woodpecker,
Yes.
Popeye, Beanie and Cecil.
Okay.
That's Bob Clampett, Beanie and Cecil. Is that 4? So I only have one more? Ooh, only one more. I guess I'll go with Bugs Bunny.
Bugs Bunny. Fantastic. Fantastic, man. I loved Mighty Mouse. Absolutely. One of my favorites.
He was the very first character my mom told me that I ever drew.
Oh, perfect. That's great. So one thing I do want to do before we wrap up here, and that is Disney merchandise. Disney Parks has a new little guy. It's part of this Disney Nuimos set. And they just came out with a Kermit.
What is this?
They just came out with a Kermit as part of this Disney's Nuimos.
Oh.
And they just came out with a Kermit and Miss Piggy. And like brand new, just picked this up this week.
Wow.
So we're going to do a giveaway this week for folks who watch and share this episode. So you could win this. And I really don't want, like, I got him because I was like, oh yeah, we could do a little giveaway. And then I got him and then saw how cute he was. So I really don't
give that away, do you?
I don't. So we're going to give away. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and claim it. But then we're going to go ahead and say that I'm giving away my personal Kermit Nuimo. So yeah. So, you know, we'll figure out a way to give this little guy away, give him a new home. And I bet you.
I will tell you what I'm going to do, Milo. Since you are being that magnanimous, I'm going to draw you a picture of Kermit and I'm going to mail it to you.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
So that's going to be Guy's giveaway for today.
These guys are cool. They're that you can move them and mold them and they can stand up. So definitely this guy is one of the, I bet you see a bunch of these guys on the convention scene once they open back up.
Oh, I've got a feeling. Yeah. And some of the cons are happening again. I'm going to be down in like Houston, Texas, and people go to my Facebook, and pinned to the top of my Facebook page is wherever I'm going. And you know, everything certainly is fluid and everything with everything that's going on, and we all want to stay safe and we all want to stay healthy. But you know, and we want to smile. So if we can do all of those things, I'm
right. So before we wrap up, where can folks find you on the social medias?
On Facebook, it's A Guy Gilchrist Production. And if you want to know, like, and that came from Walter Lantz and Woody Woodpecker, because it was always A Walter Lantz Production. A Guy Gilchrist Production. And I'm on Instagram on Guy F. Gilchrist and Twitter at Guy Gilchrist. I am so easy to find on social media. Everywhere, and I post drawings and stuff all of the time and do live streams and all of that.
Yeah, I've seen your doodles, like I said, and the baseballs are you know, my personal favorites. So definitely, if you guys check those out, you know, if they're for sale, like I said, is going, you know, percentage of that is going to the foundation. So it's absolutely fantastic. So again, Guy, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I hope we're able to do it in person soon, because, you know, I need to hang out. And it's been too long since I've seen you, since I've seen Steve. I mean,
I feel the same way, you know, and we reach out to each other, you know, via, you know, text and whatever. And we're all wanting so much to be back and to have contact with everybody. The live streams and stuff are wonderful, but but to feel the love and to be able to to share the smiles and stuff, it's just, there's nothing like it. Can't
Absolutely.
wait to see y'all again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for chatting with me, and hopefully we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.